A Conservative senator has apologized to a Liberal MP for her choice of words in what some have called a racist tweet. Yesterday, Omar Al-Gabra, parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, appeared on this show to speak about Canada's diplomatic feud with Saudi Arabia. Shortly after his appearance, Conservative Senator Denise Batters retweeted a clip of that interview, saying that it may have been, quote, interesting to ask Al-Gabra whether his birthplace, quote, impacts this file for him. Al-Gabra was born in Saudi Arabia to a Syrian family, and that sparked an exchange between Al-Gabra and Batters, with many Twitter users condemning the senator's tweet as xenophobic. Today, Senator Batters apologized to Al-Gabra and deleted her tweet. Batters says she, quote, did not intend to suggest that Mr. Al-Gabra's birthplace or background has any impact on his ability to represent Canadians on this or any issue. Al-Gabra has said that he accepts the senator's apology. So it's time for the power panel to weigh in and get their reaction. Joining me from Vancouver, former Conservative Cabinet Minister Stockwell Day, and here with me in Ottawa, political commentator Rob Silver, who we have to disclose is married to the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, and Françoise Boivin, political commentator and a former NDP MP. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming here.
Hello.
Okay, so it's a bit convoluted. Hopefully we explain that and everyone can follow along. But Françoise, why don't I start with you? What do you take the Senator Batters' apology for? Do you believe her when she says that that was not her intention?
I do believe her. I reread her tweet and the things that follows. And I went back to my own tweet because I must say yesterday I was watching you and interviewing Omar. And I was kind of infuriated by the, not your job, but the lack of answers. And it prompted me to tweet something. I'm not an elected official, so, but I still, as a lawyer, always am very careful of what I say. But I went back to make sure that I didn't pass certain, because sometimes when you're furious about the way that you feel like you're just being taken for a ride, and you put yourself in the position of people listening to the interview and actually getting no answer. Went back to what she wrote. I didn't quite see, I think we're starting to be a bit sensitive in this country when there's certain things that it's as if you have to avoid completely mentioning because you might be sued or somebody will be insulted by the thing. She didn't say, I'm sure you're not answering because you are from Saudi Arabia. If she had said something like that, I would understand. And it's actually an interesting question. Maybe he's got an understanding, and maybe not. I have no idea because I don't know the gentleman. But anyway, she apologized. He took the apology, but it goes back to what I'm saying. We're starting to be very sensitive here, especially on Twitter. There's many trolls that get up as soon as you say something against their shoo-shoo.
Okay, Rob, what's your take?
Slightly different than that.
Surprised, yeah.
I think it's important to separate this one incident from a larger trend we're seeing with the Conservative Party of Canada. Let's take the senator at her word that she didn't mean that he's somehow biased because of where he happened to be born. I should say Omar is a friend, and there aren't a lot of MPs who are subjected to more vitriol and hate and bigotry and xenophobia online than he is. I mean, he takes it, and it can't be fun, but it's what it is. So let's put this incident aside. He's accepted her apology. And look at the trend with the Conservative Party, right? Like this is no longer a feature of who they are as a party. It's not a bug. It's a feature of who they are as a party. We have seen the Conservative Party of Canada's official Twitter account and social media accounts having to repeatedly delete tweets because they acknowledge this was inappropriate. The black men who are crossing the border sneaky and scarily, they acknowledge this was an inappropriate tweet. We shouldn't have ever done it. It's interesting. Coming out of 2015 election, when you ask Conservatives, why did we lose this election? They talked a lot about tone. The problem was our tone. And when you push them further on, so give me some specific examples. Like, what do you mean by tone? Most of the time, they acknowledge two things. The first one, which is kind of funny now, is, oh, that whole rally with Rob and Doug Ford. We shouldn't have done that. That was a big mistake. And the second thing they pointed to was the snitch line. And instead of moving away from that type of politics, they're moving towards it. And they're not just moving towards it, they're diving towards it. And that's who they are right now. And they've either got to own it or they've got to change it. But from everything we've seen, it's accelerating. It's not moving away from it.
Is that fair? A fair criticism, Stockwell?
Well, I think Rob, has a hard time moving away from strict partisanship. I mean, I do at times too, but to say that one party or one group of people has sort of cornered the market on nasty tweets. Some people complain about the nasty tweets they get more than others do, but I can show you over the list series of tweets and emails and letters that, would make the toughest, roughest person just, kind of take a breath in terms of what I have learned. Nobody, no party, no individual has cornered the market on nastiness. I can show you some super nasty NDP tweets that literally would curl your hair. So Rob, take a big breath. Take a big breath on that one, my friend. In terms of Senator Batters, I know her fairly well, and if she's apologized, she would not be doing that unless she was sincere about it. And she may have been, there was a lot of reaction against the Liberal cabinet minister just recently who said that Canadians who were concerned about illegal immigration were, quote, un-Canadian. And that, that got a lot of people torqued up. So, you get sort of emotionally wrapped up onto these things. I do know the MP in question. Who she questioned in terms of whether his birth would have, where he was born would have affected him. I've worked with him on some immigration issues. We've actually worked confidentially together on some issues where Canadians were being held against their will, and I found him very good to be with. For sure we disagree on some stuff, but I found him good to work with, and very concerned when there are Canadians in trouble in other parts of the world.
And let me just broaden it a bit, because to this discussion of Twitter and we're talking about it in the Saudi context as well, but here there was a reply that came out from Blaine Calkins, an MP, that he posted an article that was sort of examining Omar Al-Gabra's religious background, for lack of a better description, and so I just wonder if you guys can weigh in on sort of the dangers of how this stuff plays out, and why it seems like the optics aren't necessarily always being taken into account.
I think what Mr. Calkin did was more indicative of trying to smear somebody, trying to raise some questions about his loyalty to being Canadian and so on. Maybe I'm inferring something about what I see that. But when you read the part of the article from the specialist in Mid-Eastern country, the American guy there, and you see the tweet from Calkin trying to attach this to the story of the tweet from Ms. Batters. That's how things get out of hand. Thank God everything has been removed, but that's the problem with Twitter. And I agree with Stockwell. There's not a party that can claim to be completely white and white in the sense of purity and so on. They all do it. They all have their trolls.
Let me just interrupt quickly, because I just want to make sure that I do mention that Mr. Calkins deleted the tweet and says he was, quote, unsure what he was reading, and apologized for, quote, any consternation the tweet caused. So I'll give the final word to you, Rob.
Yeah, the source he had tweeted was he's a U.S. bigot who was one of the main sources for spreading rumors that President Obama was a Muslim. I was not suggesting that the Conservative Party of Canada has a monopoly on Twitter trolls. They are everywhere. We all see them. We all sometimes are them. So I'm not claiming purity here. The difference is, and what I was pointing out, it is clearly a component of the Conservative Party of Canada's election strategy heading into 2019 to use certain whistles, taking what they did in the lead-up and during the 2015 election and amplifying that. You cannot deny that the Rebel is part of their base right now. You cannot deny that Jordan Peterson is part of their base right now, and they are playing to that. That doesn't mean the other parties are pure, but that is who they are, and they need to either change that or own that.
Why don't I give Stockton a quick 15 seconds to reply?
Sure. Well, if you want to talk about Twitter, about whistles, when I was running as federal leader, and I don't complain about it much, but in terms of people going after religious beliefs, often ones I had never even articulated, I can tell you, NDP was front and center with some of the most horrendous things about me and what the legislation I was coming up with to probably, force people to go to Sunday school or something. The Liberals are pretty bad on that too. So again, nobody is clear on this, and it's a good lesson for all of us. Check your tweet before you hit that button, for goodness sake.
All right, and on that note, we're going to take a quick pause.